I'm here to talk about borderline personality disorder, just gone through life like a wild animal. Hello, welcome to Manic in Miami. This is Holly Hurricane. Oh yeah, I'm having champagne. I'm celebrating the fact that I'm alive. It's a full moon. People really enjoy hearing like painfully private details about my life. I think I should do an episode on like fetishizing mental illness and how that shows up. I don't know if it's voyeuristic or what it is, but episodes in which I'm disclosing very, very personal information about myself have done really well. I'm doing it because I feel comfortable making myself vulnerable. I'm just kind of someone who really doesn't give a fuck. And I've had to teach myself to give a fuck over the years. I've had to teach myself to respect authority, to know when to keep my mouth shut. And I feel like in some ways I've just gone through life like a wild animal. And so over the years, I guess I've gotten a little bit more refined, but I still have that in me. And I was kind of a wild child. These boots I'm wearing for the first time today, everyone like loved them today. I kept getting compliments from botanists and stuff. I don't know if you can see them, but here, I think they're cool. La 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 la. I mean, first of all, if you go through my Instagram, Holly hearing things, and like it doesn't set off any alarm bell for like BPD, like I don't know, get a clue. I do. I think I also have BPD, and no one has been shocked. People, or maybe they're like feigning surprise, like, oh, you think so? Like, yeah, no shit, dude. Guitarist who I knew had substance abuse problems just from knowing his work and his band. And he was in the band Fat White Family. It's a UK band. He's an incredible guitarist. And, he writes music really good. I kept telling him, like, you're mentally ill. Like, it's all the same stuff, whatever. And he has a diagnosis of BPD and he rejects it and doesn't believe in BPD. But he, like, kind of came out on Instagram with his borderline diagnosis on my Instagram post that says everyone I like has borderline personality disorder. And I just, like, thought that was so cool. And the story that I have from recently is also tied to a musician who these people are like famous, but not in the mainstream. You know what I mean? Like, I consider them famous because I just, I like stuff. I don't know. It's not in the mainstream. So, like, they're not famous, famous, but they're known. Does that make sense? Is that fair enough? Yeah, all of those recent episodes. It's crazy. Just a few days ago, I saw him on my Instagram stories, then he disappeared, and then he called me. I don't know what that was about, and I forgot that I had him unblocked on his main Instagram because I think I kind of just wanted him to see that stuff, which of course he did and he would have anyway. And hi, by the way, how are you? But yeah, I think that whole situation just left me so fragile that I'm reacting to these triggers like I did, when I was 18. People, I hope, mean well. Um, ugh. I I followed this guy on Instagram. I didn't know he was on Instagram and I came across his profile and I think like his music is incredible. So I just like followed him. And then suddenly he just started like liking old posts of mine and like all of these things in like my Instagram highlights and I'm like, "What the hell?" I said, "Hey, I love your music," or something stupid like that. And then I started talking to him and I think I talked to him for like several hours after that. It's really strange. He was telling me all of these amazing things, just like saying really nice things that were not just focused on like my physical appearance, my personality. And like, I'm an intelligent person. I've done interesting things in my life. I haven't lived a very conventional life. I've done some adventurous, cool stuff. I want that to be appreciated and recognized. Absolutely. It seemed pretty sincere. Well, he wants to like fly me to another country to hang out with him, like just kind of out of nowhere. So I wasn't really sure what to make of it. And I also don't trust people. And I've had some very bad experiences with men starting as a child. I have an episode about that. And that probably contributed to BPD. And I have a very close friend, and she had told me that she met him once. I don't know how to accurately assess these things, so I just like sent her a screenshot of our conversation. I should not have done that, but I really trusted my friend, and she did betray my trust. Ended up getting to her friend, who I guess knows him, and then that ended up getting to someone that he was dating, and it got back to him. So I guess he thought, oh, this girl, I thought I was having like a private conversation with her, and she's actually just like fucking sharing this conversation with her friends. Like, I'm sure if you have like a public image, that really does not feel good. To be honest, I'm kind of shy. And he's someone who's like a musician I think is really great. I just genuinely wasn't sure what to say because I was so taken aback with his intensity. The same day that all of this happened, there was like a huge natural disaster, and like this house that he just bought in Europe was like, I guess, damaged. Like the whole area was destroyed, and all of this happened at once. But it was just insane, the timing of everything. It was so crazy. He said, I am so stressed out and I have to take space. I talked to him again and I was like, look, I don't like this. And he was really nice about it. And he said, like, hey, there's no reason to be so intense. I'm not mad at you at all. I just asked for some space. That's it. All of this happened at once. And so he said, like, this isn't this is unrelated to this. I'm just in crisis right now. And he was like on a tour. I've never even met the guy, but it was just like so intense on all of the stuff he was saying. And so I was like really upset. The way that this up and down happened, it was just very triggering for me. That just like opened the floodgates. No pun intended. It's not that I was making that situation into something that was so important. It was just that the feelings it was bringing to the surface was just so deep. It's not his fault that I'm triggered. It's not his fault that I have these issues. It's like you're being sucked into a black hole. And that's when this feeling of emptiness, like this void, like this black hole. It's like, I don't exist if, someone else can't see me. I think that's some of it. I don't know where that came from. It just kind of popped into my head now. It's crazy. So I guess it's literally crazy, but I don't know that it's something that I can handle. Like, so that's sad. Like, I'm so embarrassed, but I just deal with it. I try to breathe, try to calm myself down, or it will turn into an anxiety attack or sometimes a panic attack. It's not just emotional pain, it's really chronic anxiety. It's been described that way by Dr. Lois Choi Kane, who is a Harvard psychiatrist specializing in BPD. It's hard to identify feelings with some of these symptoms. It's just awful. Little sip after that. Who knows? I don't know. Many people who have it never get diagnosed, but Hemingway was a classic borderline. Anthony Bourdain, Joni Mitchell, probably Fiona Apple and Lana Del Rey, Sylvia Plath. And she's known for being bipolar and having this deep depression. But the way that she felt so intensely and the way that she wrote about her emotions, it's so borderline. That's where the phrase tortured soul comes from. Tortured soul is not someone who just has existential angst. Tortured soul is not just someone who's depressed. Tortured soul is describing this specific agony that comes with the people who are lucky enough to live with BPD, which is so horribly stigmatized. John Gunderson, who was like the biggest figure of borderline personality disorder, I think at Harvard, and there's the Gunderson Institute, but he said that it's the most misunderstood psychiatric condition. And it's so unfairly stigmatized. It might as well be leprosy. And the reality is that these people have endured abuse. Their triggers and reactions that are called manipulative or attention seeking come from their true life experiences, which have been very painful to them. I would much rather have negative attention than have no attention. I've always been that way. And not only is that kind of a BPD trait, but I think that stems from my disorganized attachment, this lack of object constancy, they call it. When someone's gone, they don't exist. You can understand that it's only natural for someone with those experiences to expect that maybe someone is never coming back. I'm going to cut myself, which is very common with BPD. I never cut myself. The closest thing that I did was, I guess I would hold my fingers and hands when I was younger over flames and candles and just like feel that burn and the pain. And that was a relief from this emotional turmoil that was so fucking intense. It's the most painful mental illness to live with. You are 50 times more likely to die of suicide if you have BPD. There's some amazing things about being borderline. One of them is empathy and the ability to identify with someone else's pain. That's why I left to do aid work. People with BPD are very passionate. In Zambia, I met these two bush pilots. They worked in the DRC and they had PTSD from it. One of them was in love with me and came to visit me in Zambia. And then there was this whole PTSD freak out. And then he wrote me this love letter, apology letter, and left, but very dramatic. But one thing I'll never forget is that they would fly celebrities around who would come in to do some kind of PR humanitarian work. They said that Angelina Jolie, who has BPD, and she was open about it, and her publicist scraped that from the internet. And to me, it's so obvious that she's BPD, and I actually love her. They said, she just had no fear because there's this risk-taking element, and she's just gonna go all in. And they said it was just really impressive because they were used to seeing these very precious people. Angelina was just fuck it. And I think that's so BPD. And it's just this intensity. And sometimes people have to remind you that you're being too intense, and then you take it down a notch. Really, if people tell me okay, you're being ridiculous, and make it into a joke, I completely stop whatever BPD bullshit that I'm doing. Let's put that fire out. I think that the reason I hate being left alone is probably because at some point I was left alone too much. When I was an adolescent and these symptoms started kicking in, I would just lie across my bed and cry. And then I would stop crying and there were just tears coming out of my eyes. And then I would just dissociate for a long time because that was my way to cope when it was a fight or flight. And I thought I'm not going to survive. And it's a trauma-based condition. It's also passed down, but it's not passed down genetically. It's passed down by caregivers' behavior. There are 9 criteria, and you only need to meet 5 of those. And I think as I've gotten older and as I've learned more about myself, and there is this kind of trajectory where it kind of peaks when you're younger for most people. But even though I've overcome some of the criteria, I still have some of the core problems associated with BPD. It's just a fact that people with BPD feel emotions extremely intensely. It feels like your soul is dying. I said that once to my EMDR therapist, who does trauma-informed therapy in general. And she just said, your soul is dying. It's so hard in that moment. And I've been there, drinking vodka, taking Xanax and things like that over the years. But I think it's 70% of people with BPD will abuse substances at some point in their lives. I know that I have. I'm not ashamed to say it, but it never really goes away though. You learn to manage and things get better, and it never goes away. Some of the specific traits of borderline personality disorder overlap with the problems that arise from the societal expectations that women have on them. And I find that disturbing, but not surprising, and also unfair. I mean, women are socialized to prioritize others and be selfless. So these internalized expectations can then in turn send the message to women that their self-worth is tied to meeting others' expectations, to not disappointing anyone, and not tied to their sense of self. Sounds like a recipe for BPD. I mean, in that way, it can be compared to Freud's like female hysteria and putting women in asylums for going through these painful experiences that, patriarchal society and these traditional gender roles and expectations have really created in them. And so to pathologize it and just call it like a medical problem and a mental illness, it's just rebranded female hysteria. I was reading this psychoanalytic theory book the other day, and there's a good quote. People with BPD must realize, however painfully, the extent to which they have allowed others to profoundly influence their sense of well-being. That's it right there. That's it. And I've learned not to blame other people. I've had some very bad experiences because you're willing to accept controlling and abusive behavior if you do believe yourself to be unwell, unworthy, and unfit. How could any relationship really succeed with those core beliefs? At my lowest points, I had voices in my head telling me to kill myself and that I was worthless. And I battled that part of my fragmented self, that part that also believes that. I think in my past, I've not only agreed and acquiesced to it, I've made it like an unstated goal to prove that those statements correct in the most kind of self-sabotaging and self-destructive patterns of behavior. I do think that I have built this intrinsic self-worth, and it is not reliant on others, but I still have regression. I still have some relapses, I guess, which is common in people who are in remission for BPD. Even the most resilient people succumb to many cloudy days in life. And I think like BPD really is a problem that is just inextricably tied to other people and to connections with other people and to relationships and to self-love and self-compassion as well. So another aspect is just being so self-critical. Well, there are like choices that you can make. Just definitively now make these choices. Like make a list, write down a list of everyone in your life. Think about what good they bring to your life, what positives they bring to your life and negatives, and just really, really think about it and write it down. Are these the right people that you have around you? What do you allow people to say to you? What do you allow people to do to you? What do you allow people to take from you? And the good and bad that these people bring to your life or detract from your life is something powerful. And I think something that can lead to a lot of change for the positive if you suffer from these BPD symptoms. The most like loving and adoring partner will hit a wall at some point if you are not helping yourself with some of the damage that has been done to you. I mean, whatever has happened to you has happened. Whatever you have now as a result of that, you have. That's it. None of it's ever going to change. You can't do anything about it. None of it can be reconciled or repaired fully or sugar-coated. Like, it sucks. Yes, it sucks. But you do have control of now and you do have control of tomorrow. I think that it's important to keep in mind that now and tomorrow are forever distinguishable from yesterday. Some of my anxiety and pain is tied to really not being able to extricate myself from the remorse and regret and lamenting of the past. I mean, you're no more screwed up than you allow yourself to be. That's another thing. You're in control of the narrative. Like, you're the author. Yeah, I've learned a lot about myself just gaining knowledge in psychoanalytic theory and in current psychology, psychiatric research, neuroscience, and everything like that has been a huge benefit to me. I want to know why I have this character trait. I want to know everything I possibly can about where all of this came from. If I don't understand like the underpinnings, what laid the foundation for this, and how it kind of developed, it's hard for me to just be satisfied with the band-aid. And you just need to spend time with people who can appreciate and value the best in you and that you do or will value in yourself. I talked a lot about my Instagram. I don't know. I won't. I have some really sad facts about manatees, but I won't tell you now.
Thank you for that.
Hop along. Hop. Hop, for God's sake. Ninja. Time to go. Oh, yes. Good try. Teeth. Okay, bye.
And her name was Maleficent.
Oh, come on, that's funny.
Be a long, long time. The touchdown brings me back again to find I'm not the man they think I am back home. Oh, no, 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 I'm a rocket man. Rocket man.
Voices in my head telling me to kill myself.
I say I'm cured now, but I still have intrusive thoughts.
I mean, honestly, do you remember from your grandparents' farm, like smoking weed and drinking beer and then going off the path in Etosha Pan? And there were like all these lions. Do you know, we could have freaking been attacked. We totally could have been attacked by those lions.
Dude, I know. I remember it so fucking well. I still have the pictures of that. It's probably the most lion eyes I've ever seen. So the one time we had like a fallout or so, and I was just like, fuck this, and I jumped out the taxi, and I was like, I'm walking back to the place. And then you managed to go to the Tanzanian embassy because you had my ID pictures and stuff, and you guys forged the visa for me to get into Tanzania. So when I was back at the place, I was still like a little bit fucked up, and you came in, you're like, no, it's fine, I got your visa. I'm like, how the fuck did you manage to get my visa without me even going to the embassy? Because you had my passport pictures and my passport. And then we like made up, and then we like, okay, fuck, we're going to Tanzania. And then
I forgot that I forged your visa. That's fucking cool.
Then we bought like the whole carriage for the train, and they just gave us like shit tons of tickets. And then the immigration officials also came into the because you overstayed your visa.
I remember
or
that.
something.
So I remember that entire conversation. I remember that conversation like it was yesterday. The guy was like, you belong in prison. You're going on the next train back. And I was like, the kwacha is worth nothing. Can you take these US dollars, please? And he was screaming, never. And I was crying. I was holding your hand.
But you like in a stressful situation like that, you act in survival mode.
Yeah.
Then remember when
mode.
The train stopped, and
the coolest thing that ever happened while I was there at that Fountain of Hope was when you were teaching the kids skateboarding. That was the coolest thing that I've ever seen there. I have so many pictures of you doing that.
No, we were like trendsetters back then, fucking followers.
Pete Davidson. Yeah. It was like the Pete Davidson thing. But now he dates people that are like 20 years older than him. But like,
It's
I
weird.
remember
He's like had his like little like uprising and shit, and whatever. Good for him.
he's crazy. I like him because he talks about his mental illness and stuff. But
I also dig him.
yeah,
I
like him.
also like that self-deprecating kind of like negativity, which I can relate to.
Yeah. I think he's really cool.